Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Audience Marketing Show, brought to you by Prospect Night. I'm here with my older brother Reese.
Hello.
And my younger brother Marcus.
Hey.
And for those that don't recognise my voice, I'm Luke. As always, we're discussing all things audience marketing. In this episode, we're talking about how a customer is for life and not just for Black Friday. So, where do we start with this one? This come from a conversation where we was talking about prospecting versus remarketing. So, Marcus, quick fire definition of prospecting and remarketing?
Prospecting is reaching new users who are unaware of your brand. Remarketing is reaching customers who have engaged with your brand before, whether that's through website or social or any other means.
Perfect.
Great answer.
Very good answer.
Thank you.
I think as everything, we find that this is all about balance, right? And there's a big balancing act for businesses around how much prospecting do they do, how much effort do they put into acquiring new customers versus how much effort do they put in to the remarketing or retention or loyalty type activity. And we had the conversation about what's the kind of, where is there a big time where people go and just acquire mass amounts of customers? And that was where Black Friday come up in conversation. Is I don't think there's a better example of mass acquisition where for a weekend or sometimes a week, the world goes mad. People are just trying to acquire new customers and it's just crazy. It's a crazy period of time. This episode is not about going into detail about how people go and acquire those new customers. It's more focused on what they do after the likes of Black Friday. So what do we think? So mass prospecting goes on. People will acquire loads and loads of businesses. Ultimately, what we're saying is that it feels like that there's very little follow-up or there's very little plan to go, well, actually, what do we do? We've just gone and acquired 50,000 new customers. It's been amazing. Well done. Big tick for Black Friday success because we sold load of product. But actually, in my opinion, definitely, I believe that people don't do enough then to follow up that customer. They don't bring them into their life cycle.
Yeah, ultimately, I think the problem is there is too much emphasis, and whether it's Black Friday or any other time throughout the year, from where I sit on the fence of the digital marketer, there is too much emphasis on that new customer, finding that new customer. That's what we're targeted on, and what we report on is finding that new customer, which is something I think needs to change because, like we're saying, a customer's not just for Black Friday. It's about creating a loyal customer. Brands spend a lot of money acquiring customers and then move on to acquiring the next customer. But actually, what you should be doing is like, right, you've acquired that customer. How do you turn them into being a customer in 10 years' time as well? Because once you've acquired them once, ideally, you no longer have to pay for that repeat purchase because you're reaching them through direct mail, you're reaching them through email. Like, it's cheaper than how much it costs to acquire a new customer through typically Facebook advertising, Google search, things like that.
But I guess that's the thing, isn't it? But it feels like that people were not putting that much effort in. So Black Friday being that great example, what should people be doing after the likes of Black Friday? Not necessarily immediately, because no one wants to start getting remarketed into a bucket where like it's the day after Black Friday. But what things can they set up during that acquisition phase that's going to help them do the follow-up and that long-term retention style marketing?
Well, just simple remarketing tags, collect audience lists, things like that. Like
a classic one for Black Friday, isn't it, is give us your email address for 10% off, right? So you go and you go, bang, you get that. So actually, it's a huge missed opportunity if all you're doing is saying, give us your email address, because it's great you got your email address. But if possible, in order to give someone such a wicked discount, try and capture as much information on that person as possible. So if you want to ask them for their address, if you want to ask them, if you're a website that's focused on, I don't know, a parenting product, try and gather some more information on, I don't know, the age of the people's kids. What category do they fall in? Are they infants? Are they toddlers? Are they teenagers? Like, what I'm saying is prep yourself for the long term. And I think people miss that because they'll acquire 100,000 customers over Black Friday and it'll be like, awesome, we've got that sale. But when we look to kind of re-engage those customers, I don't know, 3-6 months after Black Friday, and then you realise, shit, all we got is email addresses, you're kind of missing a trick. Whereas if you can set yourself up at the start, it's like when we talk about CRM, collect the right information regardless of whether you're doing anything with it in the short term. but make sure you've got it, because if in the long term you want to start doing something with it, you can't go back, or it's very hard to go back and then send everyone an email and go, oh, by the way, can you just give us this secondary information because we want to know more about our audience? So I think it's important that when you're doing a big acquisition activity, you're setting yourself up for that kind of, you're thinking about what's going to happen next, rather than just the short-term view of, I need to acquire a customer at all costs. I'm going to acquire a customer, but I'm going to be thinking about the long-term plan of, this is how I'm going to re-engage them, and this is how I'm going to keep them for as long as possible. So I guess when it comes to loyalty, there's examples out there. There's so many brands that maybe I might have participated in for Black Friday, and we've probably all been there where we've bought a deal, right?
Yeah.
But actually, do I look back, and how many of those would I say I've actually become kind of a brand advocate of?
Mm-hmm.
Probably very, very few, because it was probably that I had a need at the time. There was something I wanted to buy. I found a deal and I did it. Whereas I've engaged that brand, and there's no reason why I wouldn't have become a brand advocate. It's probably that I've never heard from them again. I bought that deal. I got an email confirmation saying, here's your product, but I've never heard from them again. So I could have very easily been put into that cycle of, I don't know, 3 months after, they're going to touch base with me with some email marketing. 6 months after, they're going to drop me a piece of direct mail through, just sort of saying hello, or showing me some new products, or some Facebook advertising, because they know that a year after I've bought it, I might need to buy something new if it's sort of a time sensitive product. So there just feels like there's in a lot of cases there's a lack of longer term kind of retention marketing, and I just feel like there's just a big gap there.
Agree. And it's not even Black Friday, though. It's just throughout the year. When you purchase from a brand, a lot of the times there's no effort to then create a loyal customer or create somebody who wants to go tell all his friends about you as well. There's no effort to do that. And it's very simple things you can do, like remarket to them. Don't try and sell to them again. Send them a blog about what you're doing to help the environment, or how you're employing young people into your business, or whatever it is, like that kind of content. You're not necessarily getting money out of it. You're not getting revenue out of it at that moment. But what you are doing is reaching a customer and creating that loyalty. So when Black Friday comes around again, or Christmas, or your summer sale, or whatever it is, that brand knows who you are, and they're going to come to your website directly. You don't have to pay to get that customer there.
I think that's a massive point, and I think too often people get caught up in the every bit of marketing I do has to have a direct return. Naturally, we're growing businesses while people are marketing them, but at the end of the day, you need to be comfortable doing that higher funnel stuff where you're not measuring it as direct revenue.
You have to, and I think it's quite difficult, to be perfectly honest, from our seat at the table, which is as the marketers who are going to grow your business and bring you revenue. We have to be brave and say to a client, we want to do something that's not going to bring you direct revenue, but we think it's going to build brand awareness, brand advocacy in the long term. The meeting we had earlier today, the guy runs his own fashion brand. He says he spends a lot of money producing those videos that he does. He puts out like a new video once a month, kind of updating fans on his story. He says he doesn't know anything he gets back from that. But like me and Reece both are a fan of that brand, and we get a lot of value out of it, and it helps us, doesn't it?
I believe there's a bit of a myth around remarketing. So remarketing, more often than not, firstly, people think it's about abandoned basket. That's what they mean. When they say remarketing, they think abandoned basket. That's what they really mean. And it's obviously revenue driven. It's about, okay, so I'm going to remarket this person because I want to close the deal. But actually, you can remarket to people with more kind of awareness or consideration-based content that's a little bit higher funnel, where, all fairness, you need to be comfortable that it's not going to be driving that revenue. But from your perspective, Marcus, like, I know it can be a difficult conversation, but if people are happy to be doing that stuff, it can be hugely impactful.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why I like to call it sometimes life cycle marketing rather than remarketing, because every customer of your brand is going to have a life cycle with you, and it shouldn't end at the moment they purchase. So, for example, one of the brands that we've just started working with, they put out a really cool video update once a month. The guy has openly said to us it costs him a lot of money to produce because it's high quality and he doesn't know what return he gets from it. But as we're all fans of this brand, it helps us engage with that brand and feel part of it as well. Like, it was my birthday a few weeks ago, and I come into the office and told everyone that I'd received my annual birthday card from Tottenham Hotspur. Couldn't believe that Harry Kane took the time out to sign it, and Pochettino as well. But that must cost them nothing to send, right? And that I'm going to be a Spurs fan for life anyway, but it's like a nice touch to help me engage with that brand in a little way.
Yeah, so one of our clients, Dobby's, send out birthday cards. We print all the birthday cards, send them out once a month to people who have birthdays that month, and they go crazy for it. And if the person doesn't receive one, they're calling up the customer service team and telling them what they think. But it's love marketing, isn't it? It's feeling loyal to that brand, and why would you repeat purchase from them? Well, they show the love back. So
yeah, it goes a long way. I think people receive a lot of rubbish. Any kind of marketing, they receive a lot of rubbish. So when you get something that's relevant to you and from a brand that you know, it's like a warm feeling, and it will bring you closer to that brand. And I'm sure those people who receive those birthday postcards tell their friends about that brand because they've received a birthday from them.
What's Marcus's favourite beer, Luke? Or beer brewery? It's not a trick question.
This is a question on the fly. I'd say Brewdog.
How would you feel if you received a birthday card from Brewdog with a free pint in your local brewery?
Well, it's funny you say that actually, because I know this isn't planned, but they actually give you a free beer every year for your birthday.
I didn't know that,
because I'm an investor, so I get a free Punk IPA on my birthday every year.
Do they prompt you to redeem that? So what would you feel if they sent you a lovely?
They don't, but you're right. That's a very good point, and I would love that. Like anything I get through the door. And actually, I feel bad admitting it, but I actually don't think their beer is the best beer out there. But if you ask me who my favourite brewery is, it is them, because the stuff they put out, I'm part of that brand. I'm 100% bought into that brand. And I'm going to continue to be because of the messaging they put out, because of the merchandise they put out, and all the things like that. So I would agree. Like if I ever get the chance to talk to James and Martin, I will be telling them to send out birthday cards.
You know, if you get a tattoo of the Brewdog logo, you get 10% off for life.
Marcus has got one.
I've got a few rascal ones, but not that.
No, I think it's really interesting, and there's definitely so many more ways where people can focus on. It's not even just retention, is it? I think a lot of this needs renaming, doesn't it? Because remarketing is a bit of a catch-all term, but really you've got basket abandonment, which is a conversion activity, isn't it? We're trying to win people back to get them to come back to the basket. You've got kind of retention, which is someone's a customer. What activities do we need to do to keep them retained? And that's where I think content is a really massive part of that. And those little love touches you were talking about, Reese, where you send someone a birthday card or all of those small little bits. You've got win back, which is all part of that, which is someone used to be a customer, they've dropped off. How do we win them back? And obviously on the flip side, you've got prospecting, which is how do we acquire people in the first place? I think it's important to break all those little bits down, because otherwise it just becomes a catch-all. It's like, well, we're acquiring new customers and then we're doing remarketing. It's like, well, you're doing so much more than you do. It needs to be broken down into all of that.
If you talk about the traditional awareness, consideration, conversion, loyalty funnel, remarketing, which is often, like you've said, a catch-all term, remarketing sits at every stage of that, other than awareness, arguably, right? Because that's when you're just doing proper prospecting to make people aware of your brand. Throughout the consideration phase, you're remarketing. Throughout the conversion phase, you're remarketing. Throughout the loyalty stage, as we're saying now, definitely should be remarketing. So you're right in what you're saying, Luke. You can't just talk about remarketing. It's too broad of a term. Remarketing covers such a large amount of the activity that we do that remarketing is too big. It's like saying we do marketing. Remarketing covers, or can, or should cover, the consideration phase, the conversion stage, the loyalty stage, creating brand advocacy. Remarketing goes throughout all of those stages of the journey.
So for me, it's irritating when someone's loyalty only exists of sending me offers. Like that really just annoys me if the only time I ever hear from a brand that I once purchased from is literally just, oh, we've got a 10% offer, and then I don't hear from them, and then 2 months later I hear, oh, we've got this new product line, buy it now. Like if that's the only messages I hear from them, if I only ever see like revenue focused communication, it just really pisses me off, because I just feel like they don't care enough about me.
So what would you like to receive?
Like for me, like if it's a business that I've bought into, like I buy into stories, I buy into a business's sort of like what they're about, their purpose. Like so I would prefer to see, and my personal buying behaviours would be, if it's a video, if it's an article, if it's just some really good information, stuff that's from their point of view is harder to measure in terms of what revenue it's driving, But for me, that's what would make me feel like I'm getting closer to a brand.
And what about you, Reece? What makes you a loyal customer?
Similar to Luke, I think. I think it's buying into that lifestyle, feeling loved. I think feeling part of a gang. I think for me definitely when I feel a part of something, when I feel like I've connected with that brand or the story of the brand, I think for me that's when I really get it.
I think that's really interesting. And I think if we went out and asked people on the street the same thing, what makes you a loyal customer, they would probably say similar things to this. Yet when it comes to marketing to create loyalty, people just hammer home offers and buy our new range and shop this now, shop that now.
Do you think then, look, great question, you get annoyed that the only loyalty you have with some brands is an offer code. So how would you go about doing it differently?
I think how people measure loyalty, if we're all honest, is they measure it on how many times people come back and buy. Right? So that is important, don't get me wrong. But I believe I can be loyal to a brand, or I can have a real close connection to a brand and not buy from them very often. And I think that's still loyalty.
I agree.
Like, it is important to distinguish that. Like, if someone is communicating with you in the right way and they're building that bond and they're making you feel like, to your point, Reece, they're making you feel like part of that club, I think that can't always be measured on the amount of dollar signs next to it. Well, you know what? A real life example, and I don't know if any of you have had it done to you, but I think it's amazing. Pret. Every staff member in Pret, basically they've got a certain amount of like credits that they can use throughout their shifts, and they can just gift people stuff. So like I was in there and I was having quite a good day. I was quite chirpy. I was sort of happy, and I got chatting to the guy that was serving me coffee, the barista, and I had a sandwich, and he just said, "Oh, that coffee's on us," and I was like, "Sorry." He goes, "Oh," and then he sort of explained. He said, "Oh, the policy we have is that if people are looking sad or they need a little bit of a pickup, or if they're just really nice and like happy and jovial," he was like, "We're allowed to give people little freebies." And I think that's a real life thing, and it made me feel really, really great. But you can do the same thing with your other marketing. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys have, but having something through the post or an email that just says, "Have a coffee on us," like completely out of the blue. Or you get something through from your favourite brand and it says, "Here's a little gift." Like, it means a lot to people, and I think it just helps aid that connection that people are having with brands.
Tesco's used to do it, or they probably still do it. When you tap your club card, loyalty card, if you've got X amount of points, or it could be random, I can't actually remember. But at that point, they pull out a box from underneath the till, and it's like a gift box to say like, "Hi, like Luke, I can see you've like been here for a few days now, blah, blah, blah. Like, here's your gift box full of treats for you." Or if they know you're purchasing baby products frequently in Tesco's, when you tap your loyalty card, at that point then they give you a box full of like Pampers, baby wipes, milk.
And that's why it's so important. If we go back to the episode we did earlier on in the season around like knowing your audience, like that's why it's so important. Like, people, I think, sometimes overcomplicate things and they think, "Oh, we need to be doing these really, really smart things," but it's actually just good business. Like I said, if you had a coffee shop on the corner of a street, you would know your customers. You'd know the regulars that come in. They're the ones that you might more than likely give them a free coffee, or you might give them a little croissant. Like, you would know your customers inside and out, and you would do those sorts of things for people. We're keeping it really simple. Do those in the rest of your marketing. If you know your audience really, really well, and you want to retain them, you want to create kind of like a long-term bond, a bit more loyalty from them, don't be afraid of doing these sorts of things.
Well, how many websites, when you go on it, have the automated pop-up or it's in their ad that says, "Give us your email address, it's 10% off for new customers," versus how many people say, "You've been a loyal customer, have 10% off."
Great
Like,
point.
You never see that. And I would arguably say they're worth more than 10% off. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone puts effort into the new customer, but what are you doing to keep that loyal customer, and almost just saying thank you, like, we value your custom.
It annoys me when I see that sometimes.
Same. It's almost like I get it for Spotify. It's like, "Oh, first month free." I don't think they do it anymore, but Spotify always advertise first month free. I've been paying for Spotify £10 a month for about 8 years. Like, that's a lot of money. They should give me a month free.
Definitely, because the majority potentially are the people that are going to take that free month aren't going to carry on.
Well, yeah, maybe.
So like they should be rewarding you for your 8 years.
Sky as well.
Sky annoys the hell out of me.
Because it's a lot of money, and you pay a customer for a long time, and then a new person for switching from Virgin or whatever it may be, like, they get a discount. Like, why don't I get a discount?
No, it's key. I think that getting the balance right, and this is not us. This is not us just saying you don't need to be doing prospecting. Of course, you need to be doing prospecting. Of course, you need to be acquiring new customers. But for us, it's important that people are getting that balance right. And I would say, in our opinion, at the moment, the balance is probably too far towards acquisition. Definitely on like a consultancy, marketing partner, such as ourselves, we are more often than not tasked with acquiring new customers. And I guess our message and our opinion is just to really sort of think about or readdress that balance, because the saying is fish where the fish swim. 100%. If you can acquire new customers and the lifetime value is amazing, definitely do that. But let's not turn a blind eye to the customers that we have, whether they're active or whether they're lapsed customers, because technology has enabled us to be able to do so much to kind of re-engage those. And we've shared some ideas today, and there's so many other ways that people can be engaging these customers in this kind of life cycle marketing, as Marcus puts it. There's lots of opportunity, and for us, it's just about understanding where the balance sits between prospecting and gaining new customers versus let's see what we can do with the people that have already historically engaged with our businesses.
Fish where the fish swim, and then look after your fish.
Feed them well.
Feed them well.
Definitely.
So anyway, thanks for listening. Hopefully that's been interesting and useful for everyone. As I said, for us, just about get the balance right. I've been Luke.
I'm Reese.
I'm Marcus.
And we are Prospect Night.
I'm off for a bit.
Audience-based marketers and ting.
Thanks again for listening to the Audience Marketing Show. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Prospect Night, you can find us on the socials or by visiting www.prospectnight.com. The final episode of this series is going to be an Ask Us Anything. So as you're listening throughout the season, just drop us a message, drop us a tweet, LinkedIn, wherever your favourite social platform is. Ask us any questions you have on audience marketing, and we're going to do a nice summary in the final episode. So we look forward to hearing your questions.